Hello, Juanita Ventura. How are you?
Well, how are you?
Very good, thank you. Welcome everybody to Melting Heart. We are here chatting it up, right? And we never know where this is going, so Juanita.
So hold on.
Yeah, so hold on to your hat. We just never know.
Yeah.
Nothing is scripted anyway. So, Juanita, I love what you do, and but I want you to tell me a little bit about you.
Oh, which one of the things that I do?
I know, right?
There's so many things that I do, yeah. Narrow it down for me. What do we want to talk about?
I want to talk about the mediumship.
Okay.
Your
All right.
abilities, your special abilities.
So one of my favorite things to tell people is that, we all see mediums on TV. You see, Long Island Medium and James Van Prague and all those people. And my story is not that fairy tale story of, I talked to dead people when I was little. It was nothing like that for me. Although my grandmother did have stories where she would communicate with the dead, but it was just kind of like one of those conversations that you have, So I call her the closet medium in the family. So it wasn't something that was foreign to me. And I did start attending a spiritualist church in Tucson called Temple of Universality, probably close to 20 years ago. 17, 18 years ago, something like that. And
When you were just a baby?
when I was just a baby, I was about a year or two old. No lies, it was right around the time that my 17-year-old was getting ready to be born. So I had a lot of desensitizing time. I was, Spirit led me into that path. I had just gone through a divorce, and I think that was the catalyst that pushed me into my spiritual path, like, really strongly. I was always, as a teenager, into divination and I read up about Wicca and Voodoo and Brujeria and shamanism, Santeria, all those things that had to do with intuition and divination and prophecy in some way. But it was all the earth-based religions, some of the Native American beliefs. So those were things that I kind of read. I never had a mentor, though, as a teen. And then after I had my kids, I found that church and I started going, and they had mediums that did messages during the service. And then all of a sudden there was this request for me to become a minister, and so I am an ordained minister, but they wanted me to also do messages on the podium, and I was like, I'm not doing that. I felt like it was such a huge responsibility to stand in front of a group of people and communicate something to them. And I was like, what if I say something wrong? What if I tell them? And, they kept assuring me, no, Spirit is working with you. It'll be okay. And I had never really, I had some intuition and there were times before in my life where people would be like, are you a witch? Because, you know what's going to happen about things. But really what ended up happening is I became an ordained minister. I started going to circles, mediumship circles, and just the training. I started doing the training, but not really using it. And then I started doing a little bit of message work in the church as a service. I'm very service-oriented, and I feel like we should always be using our gifts and talents to serve humanity as a whole. But as one person, you just kind of do it one-on-one. But what really ended up happening then is I was already desensitized to it to some extent, and had been doing circles and training a little bit, but it was in a small support group that I had, so I was very comfortable with it.
Mhm.
But one day I was taking a shower, and the bathroom has a skylight that I was in. It had a skylight, and I'm washing my hair, and you know how you can see the light. Well, when a cloud goes over the sun, you know how you see that
Yes.
it darkens a little bit. So I'm washing my hair, and the light darkened in the bathroom, and I had just come in from outside. I had been doing yard work, so I knew there aren't any clouds in the sky, right? And so I'm like, that's weird, and I'm washing away, and it happened again. And all of a sudden, I realized there's somebody in the room with me. And so I opened my eyes thinking it's my son or, walked in or whatever, but then I'm like, well, nobody, he wouldn't just walk into the bathroom. I open my eyes, I see nothing. So I'm going to the conditioner, doing the conditioner, and with my eyes closed, I clearly saw a man standing, and I had one of those showers that was like frosted glass. I clearly saw a man standing on the other side of the shower. Open my eyes, nothing there. Close my eyes, and there he is. Black, dressed in black, black cowboy hat. And I was like, this is really weird. There's a man in my bathroom while I'm showering. And we started to communicate telepathically. And he started to give me information. And so while that was happening, that flowed really well. I mean, I was like talking back and forth, receiving the information. And then I got out of the shower, and all of a sudden I thought, I'm going crazy. Oh, I must be going crazy. That could not have just happened. I need to be medicated. I need to see someone. I really got scared, and I didn't know what to do. I was lucky in that I had a good support group. So for a couple of days, I just kind of freaked out inside myself. And it's interesting because I was desensitized to the fact that there are mediums and that people do it, but somehow I didn't believe that I could do it, that this could be happening to me, that it was like only special people do that. I don't do that. The information he gave me was in regards to a friend of mine, and so I was afraid to contact him and say this to him. So I spoke to a couple of the ministers. It took me 2 full weeks to contact that person and tell them, listen, this is going to sound weird, but your dad was here, and this is what he said to me. So I did shoot him an email, and then we met for dinner. And what ended up happening was that this really beautiful relationship developed between he and I, because he validated everything that I had told him. He confirmed the information that his father had given to me, and then his father just started, giving me more information. And then because I hadn't. When you start working with the spirit world, you have to create boundaries, but I hadn't gotten to that point yet. So it was like the floodgates opened. There were dead people everywhere. Everywhere I went, I'd be driving along and there'd be somebody in my seat. I'd be going through a store quietly, in those quiet moments, I'd be falling asleep or waking up, or in the middle of the night, I would hear them, they would pop in. So I had to start learning to create boundaries and discuss with them what's okay and what's not okay.
Like, don't come in while I'm in the shower anymore.
Right, no more popping in when I'm in the shower, no more talking to me when I'm asleep, because it's startling. Not so much that it scared me, but it startles you. You have kids and you hear somebody talking, you're like, what's going on, So it was rough for me in the beginning.
Do they follow the rules?
They absolutely do. They absolutely
See,
do.
everybody out there that's hearing voices, it may not be something that you need to find medication for. You might want to find a support group within a church that might clarify some things for you. And I recently had an experience with one of my relatives who started to tell me they were seeing things, and she had gone to different people in the family, and everybody was thinking you need to go to a psychologist. And she called me because she was like, I know you're going to see this from a different perspective, and I did bring on a different perspective, and so instead of just running to the doctor, I'm not saying don't, if you feel you have to, please do. Also, in addition to following your doctor's orders, always explore, because something else might be happening.
Absolutely.
What if you did think you were crazy?
Right.
Which I imagine a lot of people watching this may think that we are.
Well, there's some truth to that, but not in this particular subject matter.
Then a lot of us are crazy.
Yes.
I wanted to ask, you said divination, and a lot of people watching may not know what divination is. Would you explain that to us?
It's the craft of being able to foresee something or foretell something using different tools. Tarot cards do that. You had somebody that does shell readings, and I told you the story about the coconut man.
Yes.
Who was I think he was of the Yoruba religion, and he would take a coconut and break it into pieces, and then just throw the coconut shards on the ground and read the coconuts. So it was about, divination is connecting to the divine and communicating that information to you to help you in some way, whatever your questions may be. But there are many, many tools, and one of the things that I did was work with all those different tools, the spells, with Wicca and voodoo and some of those things. But really, what I learned through all that is it's all about intention.
It really is.
It's really intention. I know we give it all these bad names, the occult and divination and that type of thing, but all you're really doing is taking that energy, and we all have the ability to manifest, every single one of us, but it's about taking a tool that helps you focus that intention and that energy to make something happen. And those tools just serve as that focal point for us.
You're absolutely right. I often compare spells and different things that people do, witchcraft, to the law of attraction, which is more acceptable to most people.
Right.
And because all you're doing is you're creating a three-dimensional visual board, if you wish to call it that. And you're putting all your intention and desire and energy into it to help it manifest. And so different people find different paths and different ways of doing that. So thank you for clarifying the divination part. I want to ask you one more thing when you were talking about dead people. Is it always dead people, or do you sometimes get a message from somebody that you know is still alive?
That's so interesting that you're asking me that now. So I want to talk about a couple of things here. When I talk about my mediumship, and as you know, I call myself a Terra-Psychic also because I receive information from the earth, from stones and crystals and animals and, how the planets interact. But when we talk about the messages that I receive when I'm doing, like we do a new moon message event here at Melting Heart every new moon, and I channel messages from spirit, from angels, from your guides, and just kind of the earth because I do the stone blessings. But one of the things that happened at a recent event is that I was communicating to someone some information from a grandfather, and she just kept saying no, that her grandfather was alive. Well, we took an intermission, right? We did an intermission because the nights tend to be a little bit long. And in the intermission, she walked up to me and told me that her grandfather was alive, but that he was very ill.
Oh, I see.
And, getting ready to transition. So I will say that I've had people come through, and this goes back to that first gentleman that I worked with, that beautiful relationship where I was so comfortable. Spirit gave me a person where I could be comfortable enough to learn my skill and to hone it. And he had somebody who was in a coma who kept coming in and communicating. So when people are like 1 foot on the other side and 1 foot here, they're very ill or they're in a coma, they will come through and communicate because they've already stepped partially into that world. The other thing that's happened is that I get telepathic communications and telepathic messages from people who are alive, and that typically happens when I'm doing the energetic readings, what I call energetic readings. I'm a Reiki master, as you know, and I put people on the table and I do Reiki, and we do a healing session, but as part of the healing session, I'm also doing a reading. And when I first was I don't want to say experimenting, but I was honing it. I was deciding how this was going to work, and I took a lot of people in as, to help me with it as trials, so to speak. And every single one of those people, somebody stepped in who was alive and gave messages. So that was something interesting that I just learned. But I think that's more of a telepathic connection where you're picking up somebody who would like to communicate with them. And you know how we go through the day and you think about calling somebody or talking to somebody and you just don't get around to it. But every time you think of someone, you've made an energetic connection to them. And so I've been able to pick up on those also. Now those haven't happened outside of the energetic readings, but yeah. So you're picking up communications. All it is really it's like taking it's like plugging something into the wall. I'm taking my plug and plugging it into somebody else's energy and receiving that communication and passing it to that client that I'm working with.
I think that's something that most people can relate to. Thinking about someone, then getting that phone call, or thinking about someone running into them, or just knowing something is right and following that intuition. And so I think most people can relate to that. What most people can't relate to is talking to dead people.
Right.
But I've seen it. I've seen your work. I think it's beautiful. You pack the house every time. I've seen you speak to every single one of them about a loved one that has passed, or someone that, not someone, but a spirit is coming through, or an angel or a guide. And how everybody leaves here just astonished that you got it right. And so there's, for non-believers out there, just check it out. I always encourage people to check things out. Don't dismiss it just because you're afraid or because you don't know anything about it, because typically that's where fear comes from.
Yes.
That must be bad because I don't know. I've never was given that information by my mother, my father, my teacher, so that must be wrong. And I think that we just need to be open and flexible.
Well, I dealt with that fear myself, like I said, when it first happened to me, and you just kind of work through it. I mean, it's about understanding it, and that's where my comfort level came in, was the understanding, gaining the knowledge and the understanding, and more training, and so, you know, expose yourself to things.
I think there's more people out there that would not admit that the different situations where they've been able to tap into something. Like you said, we shake our head and we go, I must be crazy, because I used to think that too.
Yeah.
And I always, for me, it happens, my intuition comes in unexpectedly. Like, it'll be a pregnant woman and I'll just, you know, come up and say, oh, you're having a boy, or, you know, and it'll be, oh yeah, how'd you know? And so different things like that. So obviously you're connecting to something that is alive, right? So your specialty is rare, and I, for one, am very impressed by your talents, your skill, and you also work with stone blessings.
Yes.
And I wanted to chat a little bit about that, because you have an extensive knowledge of gems and semi-precious stones.
I don't know about extensive knowledge. I'm still learning. I'm still learning so much
Well,
about
this is
working
something
with
that
stones.
you made, right?
This one not particularly, but like this
Everything
bracelet,
else?
the crystal quartz, the earrings, I generally pretty much only wear, I made this jewelry that I've made, and I'm very particular about the things that I put on my body. So
why is that? That everybody
because
knows.
all crystals and stones, gemstones, and the rocks and the earth, it's all organic. It all carries an energy, and crystals and stones each have their own specific energy that they emanate. Some of them pull in energies, like crystal quartz is very good at clearing, you know, detoxifying energy, absorbing negative energy. I use silver a lot because it carries the moon energy, and as you know, I like working with the moon, the energy of the moon. So depending on my mood or what's going on, I'll wear different types of stones, and some are protective stones, some are, you know, stones that give you energy, some are stones that help you connect to spirit. You know, when you're releasing certain things, you know, certain things that we work with. I know in the past I've worked with, for example, citrine to let go of past things. I have a Herkimer that I wear all the time because I'm working on what my path is going to be. You know, I'm kind of in this in-between world. And so what I do with the stone blessings, though, and this is I started working with stones, again, probably 20 years ago, and trying to pull that energy in, because they literally would speak to me as I would walk by them and pull me in. And I lived in Tucson for over 20 years, and they have that huge gem show, which is one of the largest in the world. And I would always go with the intention of trying to buy myself something. Well, it kind of grew to not finding the things that I wanted, so I said, I'm just going to make it myself, because I started seeing beads and things, and I said, oh, I'll just make them myself. And I would go and I'd have this little wad of cash that I had saved, you know, to go to the gem show, and I'd buy all this stuff, and I'd come home and I'd dump it all out, and it was nothing that I wanted.
Anything?
And I was like, this, I didn't want any of this, and I don't know why I have this. And so I sat down one day, I was actually having kind of a bad day, and you know, I needed to, for me, you know, it was like a meditation to sit and work with these, and I created all these things like bracelets and earrings and talismans. I do keychains. I do, you know, things that you can just hang in your car. And there's simple things. I don't want to call myself a jeweler because I know some amazing jewelers, but it was just talismans, and the stones tell me what stones they want to be with and how they want to be put together. And so I started doing that. Then I had this wad of things that I had made, and I was like, well, I'm not wearing any of this either. So I put it aside, and one of the days that I was going to Sunday service, one of those stones called to me out of the bag, and so I went and I pulled it out, and I took it with me to Sunday service, and it needed to go to someone, and so I gave that person a message with it. And one of the ministers said, you know what, on one of these Sundays you should do that. Just stand up at the podium and give these messages, which we called stone blessings. I called them stone blessings. And so when I say stone blessings, it's not about the jewelry, it's about the message that comes with it. It's about what the stone is trying to do for you and say to you. And so we do that in some for New Moon message. I do some stone blessings as well. And I like doing it because the energy's in the stone, and you've received not just the message, but now you have something tangible that you can carry with you to remind you of what that message was, and what Spirit is trying to guide you to do or help you with, or support you in. So for me, the stone blessings are one of my favorite things, because I know that you get to hold on to a piece of something that reminds you.
I have mine.
Yay.
I wear it almost every day.
Yay.
and I got the message, and as you're speaking, I'm going, I don't really remember the message because you've given me many,
Yeah.
but I feel that the message is somehow imbued in
It is.
the stone, and
Yes.
so just by wearing it,
And so one of the things I do too is I do the Reiki, and you know that I'm a secret witch. So I put spells on it, and I feel like, oh, this is what this is going to do for the person that receives it, you know. And as I'm holding it and giving the message, I'm putting the message into the stones as I hand them to you. So you don't have to remember it necessarily, but it's there, and it's a reminder that, you know, that the spirit is working with you. You have support and you're loved.
That is a really good point. A lot of people out there are feeling unloved,
Absolutely.
insecure, and so this is a great reminder that you mean something to someone.
Yes.
And you brought it up, spells. What is a spell? For people that didn't see some of our previous videos, what is a spell?
You know, I want to go back to the intention thing with all that work that I did, and I literally have a book. It's like 5,000 spells, and so I have some that I've marked and I've messed. But really, all it is again, although you're using tools, and you know, because a lot of my beliefs are very earth-based, and where Terra-Psychic comes from. You know, I use herbs. I try and eat natural foods. You know, I connect to the earth a lot. I love hiking and running and being outside and being near water. Water is amazing for me. You know, it's about, you use these things, you bring different items together and you put them together in a way that focuses your energy. And since it's all mostly organic things that you use in spells, you can write things down. You can just use your mind to do it also, but you're focusing your intention. You're taking all this energy, and I just read somewhere that if you think of something for 17 seconds straight, it becomes a reality in your life. 17 seconds.
Wow.
You know, it's not, if you sit and you time 17 seconds in your life, it's a long time, but how many times do we think of, like, just, we worry about, oh, I can't pay this bill, oh, I can't pay this bill.
Right.
And all of a sudden, you're getting to that end, you really end up not being able to pay that bill. So
Because you gave it more than 17
you
seconds
gave it more than
of
17
attention.
seconds, and I was like, wow, that somebody put a timeline on it, because I know that I struggle with that too, like trying to remember that my thoughts are creating my reality. Well, that's what spell casting is. It's really about energy and thoughts and intention creating a reality. And you know, you just really have to focus. These things that you bring together while you're doing it is just a way, it's a ritual and a ceremony that brings you in and tells you, this is what we're doing right now. These 17 seconds, 30 seconds, 60 seconds, however long it takes you to do it, this is what we're doing. So it's more about intention.
It sounds like the old version of setting goals and objectives.
Yes.
And sitting down and writing down
That's
what you
right.
want.
That's exactly
and
right.
so I think I'm creating a spell every day because
You are.
what I do, and this is something that I always tell my friends, maybe this will work for you. I take a dry erase pen, and if you go to my house when it's not listed, it's listed for sale right now, so I don't do this. But when you do go to my home and I'm living in it, I take a dry erase and I write all over my mirrors, everywhere. And I write what I want, and I write things like, you know, I am loved, I am beautiful, I am healthy, and I am prosperous. And so all my mirrors have an affirmation. So when I pass by that, I see it, and my focus is
for those few seconds.
For
you
those
just,
few
You
seconds.
just created that thought.
so
That's
it's
right.
a spell.
That's right. That's exactly what it is. And you know how you say goals, and for the record, my house is the same way. Anybody that goes into my house right now, not only is it on mirrors, I've got Post-it notes in different places. My kids make fun of me. You know, I love my kids to death. I'm so glad that they're learning this stuff at an early age. But my son literally wrote a Post-it note that says, I will acknowledge my son at all times, because he wanted me to pay it.
Aww.
He's a little high maintenance, that one. And he put it in front of me, and I was like,
We
okay.
might edit this if he's gonna watch.
Oh, he knows. I was like, oh, wow, really? That's a great affirmation right there.
It is a great affirmation. And it's great, you know,
It is.
he knows you well because he knows
I'm
you're
a
going to look at
busybody.
that sticky.
Yeah, and
You're
I'm a busybody, and I'm always overcommitted, so I do need to commit time to my kids. But when you talk about goals, you know, and I live in the corporate world, and I've been trying to pull away for so many years, but Spirit has me in the corporate world. So now one of my paths is trying to genuinely and successfully use my intuition in the corporate world. not as a medium, not because I want to walk around and talk to dead people at different
Mhm,
desks,
mhm.
more about connecting, because I would never, I don't, that's one of the things I don't do is I don't give messages to people without their permission, without somebody coming and asking. I find it's a huge invasion of privacy, so I don't walk around open reading other people. I have no desire to do that. I think I would go crazy if I did that. But it's about being able to connect to the divine, to the source, whatever you call that source. For me, I always call it the universe. When people say God or whatever you want to call it, for me it's that universal energy that we all are a part of. And being able to use that in the corporate world to help me be more successful in the corporate world. So now I've understood that from spirit. But you know, in the corporate world, people who, when you talk about being successful in the corporate world or in businesses, you write goals, you have a business plan, you have all these things. These are all, as far as I'm concerned, spells as well. You're putting it in writing. You're saying these are the goals that we have for this year. The business is going to, you know, sell this much this year. These are, you know, the dollar amounts that we're hoping to bring in, or these are the things that we want to accomplish as a company. What is different about that? What is different about that? You've now put it into writing. You've read it, and everybody reads it over and over. So you're implanting that intention into people's minds, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that's any different than spell casting. You know, if I take some herbs and whatnot and make some, you know, decide that I'm going to do certain things for, you know, to improve my own personal life, I don't find it any different. So now, the last close to a year, I'm trying to kind of use that and record it and research it and use it maybe later in a way that, you know, that we know that what we're really doing is working with our intuition and intention, right?
Absolutely.
And manifesting both in the corporate world and in our personal lives.
Well, coming from the NLP background, I know that the more senses that you bring into whatever that you incorporate into manifesting, the faster you speed up the process of the manifestation. And I probably said that all garbled. Anyway, I think you get the point.
Yes, absolutely.
If you're working with herbs as you're creating your spell, your focused intention, then what happens is your brain somehow records the experience in a way that you're connecting all your senses to that. So it creates a more realistic experience, and that is why you manifest things a lot faster.
Yeah, that's the energy that moves you forward then.
So it's awesome. To me, I love to say my I am statement. I sing a song every morning. Now I wake up with that song in my head before I even open my eyes. Before my mind is even awake, I'm already singing it in my head. And it's I am, the I am song. And in addition to that, I have a spray that Maria Cook, who is another person that we'll be interviewing, she created that along with her partner. And I spray that, and as I'm feeling so elated and so much bliss, I spray the I am I say the I am statement or sing it, and then I spray the I am spray. It's called I am. And it just infuses that experience. And so throughout the day, it just helps me tune into that much easier. So I think that the spells and witchcraft, using all these elements, the being able to feel your goal,
and
being able to smell the goal really makes it just a more true experience. So I probably went on and on. Anyways, you get the point.
Yes, I totally understand.
You were also talking about Terra-Psychic. So when you say Terra-Psychic, you're basically speaking about the stones, and we went over that already, right?
The stones, the earth, animals. As a lot of the messages that I receive for people are animal totems. I consider those part of the earth. You know, water comes in when there's emotional things. You know, I typically connect to water. The new moon thing, you know, people don't always think of that, but really the earth interacts with other planets, and the earth is affected, and we on this earth are affected by its interactions with other planets as well. So that's why I do the new moon thing. And I just, like, we're coming close to full moon now as we record this segment, and for me, when we get closer to full moon, my energy starts to wane. I feel that because the moon is starting to come to a close, right? It's starting to become a full moon. So, this is time when we release things and we slow down a little bit. And new moon is when my energy picks up. So I've already noticed the differences in my body with the moon cycles.
You're following the cycle.
Yes.
You're following the cycle.
I'm following the moon cycle. So I work closely with the moon, and I've known that, which is why I wear the silver all the time. I literally pretty much never wear any gold. But But for me, anything that has to do with the earth affects us, and it speaks to us, but we don't always listen.
Right.
So for me, that's important. That's why I coined the term Terra-Psychic. I'm not the only Terra-Psychic. And we just spoke to someone. We did a video. Well, right now the video's on autopilot, by the way.
So we're just gonna go on and on forever. We don't even know how long we've been
because I'm the
chatting.
video person. But the last person we spoke to spoke about witches and earth-based beliefs, and there are a lot of people who do that. There are a lot of Terra-Psychics. Anybody who listens to the earth and hears what it's saying is a Terra-Psychic, as far as I'm concerned. I just happen to use it in my mediumship and in my communications with others. Because for me, one of the things that's important when I speak to my clients is to help them. I don't want clients to come back and get readings from me every week or anything.
Right.
I want them to be empowered and to be able to connect to spirit the way I do, maybe not to the degree that I do, but to some extent connect to your own knowledge. I mean, you have the wisdom inside of you. You just have to connect to your intuition and to the universe, and you have the answers. So one of the things that I enjoy doing is helping people learn that you can do this on your own. I can be the catalyst, and I can help you and give you a push here and there, confirm or validate, but the earth is one of those things that we really need to kind of embrace and listen to.
Well, we are children of the earth,
Yes.
and I believe that everything we ever needed and will ever need was already there even before inventions came along. So we could survive on the earth if we wanted to. So it's already there. And imagine back in the day, they were communicating with our ancestors, were communicating with earth and knowing and using the intuition. What kinds of herbs can I eat? What kinds not to?
What berries should I eat and what berries should I not eat?
Exactly. So of course they were using the intuition.
Yes.
Otherwise, everybody would have sampled everything and probably suffered tremendous consequences, which I'm sure some did.
So yeah.
But yeah, intuition,
Trial and error,
very
right?
exactly. Intuition, a very important thing and something I follow. And so Juanita, thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you for having me.
This is meant to be a chat where we just connect from the heart. There's no script. We're just chatting it up.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for viewing us. And you can always connect with us through Facebook. You will see the tagline in the bottom. And come visit us in Phoenix when you're around. Stay tuned and connected.
Thank you.
Thank you.